Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy Choppadong here, of course, with Razzle again, Raz GPT. We've got the MLB Live Lock Show brought to you by DFSArmy.com. Oh, coupon code 10% off. MLB Live is the code to jump in, and or July 4. Really and truly, we still got a couple days left of July 4th. So you probably ought to be using that 25% off coupon, to be honest with you. But we appreciate having everybody jump in and tune in. And we're going to get we're going to give it the old rundown. We're going to talk, how big the slate is because it's huge. We're going to talk weather. We're going to talk starting pitching. We're going to talk stacks and implied run total type leverage, good stuff like that. Maybe some dong calls. But, of course, as you guys pile in don't be afraid to like and subscribe to you. Yeah.
You're cutting out a lot for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It says it's having trouble connecting when I try to post the DFS Army comment. Well, man, that was my best intro ever. How are you doing? Take it over, buddy. Tell me what's on your mind while I figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we missed pretty much you sound good now, but we missed almost everything you had to say.
God, it was great. That sucks. It was so awesome.
It's a large slate. There's a lot of things that I'm interested in, which means there's just too much to like, I guess, and I don't like that part, especially from the pitching standpoint. But also the weather timing in New York is super important for me from a pitching standpoint.
Well, let's call that up and take a peek at it, because I'm not about to try and duplicate that riff I just went off on. It was too good. New York, 60% chance in-game, 15% PPD. A little cause for concern, but like you said, it's a timing thing because you don't want it to come in the middle of the game.
Yeah, and it looks like it's coming at some point in the middle of the game. So whether it comes in the fourth inning or the sixth, seventh inning is a huge piece of information.
Trying to catch up here really quick and see what I can't gather here right off the. There's a couple of sources that I usually check really quick and see if I can't figure it out. It's tapering off in Baltimore Yankees. It's 50 to 60% the whole damn time. So I usually can use hourly forecasts to kind of time when things pick up and when they drop off. And this one isn't going to do it for me because it's just steady Eddie all the way through. So that's not good. You would have to be looking at live radar and some weather modeling and stuff like that, which, I mean, I can do, but I don't have the time to do it on a live show. None of us do. And did you look at anything like that earlier today to kind of try and guess where the timing might be?
I mean, I looked earlier and I thought it was going to be like sixth inning, roughly 2 hours into the game. But some of the updates I've seen now have stated that the storms are actually faster moving.
Yep, that's what I saw.
They were.
Yep, that's what I just saw.
We could be looking at kind of a late start, but we also don't know if that late start leads to a PPD. It's not like a late start and guaranteed to play 9. So that obviously has me concerned.
Yeah.
Both pitchers have big K upside in that game tonight.
Right.
So I wanted to be able to use them, but on the same side of things, like it would allow me to eliminate 2 pitchers from a pool that's larger than I'd normally like. So
yeah, well,
there's positives
games.
to it.
That's 13 games for you. If there are two great pitchers, there's usually 5 or 6. So if it cuts you down a little bit, I guess that's what it does. Yeah, I don't see any other major weather concerns around the rest of the slate. I mean, there's a little bit of in-game delay stuff. Chicago, St. Louis. St. Louis is interesting because it is still raining outside my front window. And I don't know when that stuff was supposed to pass through. The modeling I saw, at least in St. Louis, was showing starting at about 4:30, which was about 20 minutes early, and then lasting anywhere till about 7 o'clock or so. And if that's the case, that might be a late start for the game, and they'll probably play after that because I think it's done. Once it ends, I think it's done. But that's overthinking it even for here. It looks a similar situation up in Chicago. And Baltimore's not on the main slate. Then, well, is Baltimore on the main slate? 6:35.
Not on the DraftKings one. I haven't logged into FanDuel in a week, so I couldn't tell.
And I don't think Detroit would be either. I think it's going to start at 7:05, which is the Yankees.
No, Detroit's definitely not.
Yeah. So there's your 13 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's your 13 games. Yeah, it starts at Seattle, New York. It's a huge slate, man. Huge slate. Do you like big slates or do you like smaller slates?
I usually prefer around 8 or 9 game slates.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's usually me too. 6 to 10. How do you? This will be probably helpful to people though. How do you adjust on a bigger slate or on a smaller slate? Are there any tactical adjustments that you typically make that people could benefit from hearing?
I don't really do much changing around. I mean, I'm pretty set in how I break things down. I prefer to, no matter the size of the slate, be around 8 pitchers for my pitcher pool, just because, like, I feel like it spreads the percentages just enough. I can't get there on the slate. I've tried. I can't even get to single digits on the slate. I've tried.
You're 10 plus.
I'm 11 right now. I guess we could get to single digits if I remove the 2 pitchers in New York, but I would be tempted to add back a pitcher I removed late. I still want to add that pitcher back, but I just don't know where I can find the percentages to do so. So it's tough. When I did my video this morning, I think I said there's legitimately 16 guys that I was considering for my pitcher pool tonight. So there was no way I was getting it to 8 or 9 at that point.
That's a big pool. So you said both pitchers have upside. And if I can find him again, there he is, Will Warren with a 504 K score. On the Carnage report, obviously Logan Gilbert is the main one, but Logan Gilbert looks like he can be stacked against too. What I'm assuming you meant you'd be heavier on Logan Gilbert than Will Warren. You'd have both in your pool, but if you had one that you were going to use of the 2 for sure, I'm assuming it would be Gilbert, right?
I mean, yeah, Gilbert looks like the second chalkiest pitcher on DK.
Which is good for the rain.
It's been a little while since our ownerships have updated, I think. Well, maybe not. I'm getting a different total. Like, I'm just looking at my notes and adding up the projected ownership percentage, and it looks like that number's changed. So maybe we got a recent update. As far as the guys in my pool, Logan Gilbert is the second highest. I feel like there was a pitcher that I eliminated from my pool that might have been higher. No, I'm just slow. It was Bayo initially, but I realized I missed him out of my pool. But yeah, Logan Gilbert, second highest owned, is up there.
That's your 3 for DraftKings is Brown, Gilbert, and Bayo.
Yeah. Which is shocking because Evalde seems like a smarter play than Logan Gilbert. Sonny Gray probably seems like a smarter play than Logan Gilbert too.
I don't know the kind of upside that Gilbert has. Sonny Gray's coming off a hell of a performance. So if he's found somewhat of a groove, that Washington matchup's probably pretty good for him.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny Gray's matchups when he's at home are just good for Sonny Gray. Like, he's just been that great pitching in St. Louis. Evaldi's numbers must just be down just because people are upset over DeGrom last night. So, but other than that, like, Evaldi has the same matchup that DeGrom had last night. DeGrom was projected over 45% owned, and now we get Evaldi at under 10%, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that opens the door for day late and a dollar short. I mean, people might be like, ew, and try and stay away from, Texas offense or LA offense, whatever. And then all of a sudden be like, I don't know, overlook it. That is a big drop off.
Big difference. I mean, I realize we have more pitching options overall, but still, like, that's the matchup that we love. I think he has the third highest point projection, which is
just raw points.
Raw points, and that's 0.06 behind the person in second for raw point projection.
Yeah, which means he should be projecting about. Well, that's only a $500 difference.
Well, yeah, Logan Gilbert's projected
actually
fourth in points.
It's actually cheaper on FanDuel by a couple $100 too.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure that one out. What I like to do in spots like that is I like to look at the K score and then is it worth the money? And it's a little bit different way of doing things than you do it. But I start at the 10K at a 480 K score and a 539 VK score, and I kind of go, okay, what can I do better than that? Well, Robbie Ray's the same, numbers wise. Robbie Ray's the same. He's more expensive. I look at Hunter Brown's way better, and that's $1,000 difference in terms of what they've done. Sonny Gray is $300 cheaper, and he's about the same. Logan Gilbert is showing better K-score wise, so I'd probably be on Gilbert too. If I'm MMEing though, I'm not. Pavetta's in a little bit better spot. I'm not getting off of. I'm not getting completely off of Evaldi though. I might in like single entry type stuff, but I'm not in MME. I'm going to have some exposure, and when I see that at how low that is, I mean, I might be tempted to double the field.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little more than double the field most likely.
Yeah, I mean that's just where my default brain goes. Here's one I just saw is Soriano, 7,300, 8,900 on FanDuel, 7,300 on DK. Seems like a decently low WOBA against and ISO against, for now. The 526 K score is pretty impressive. Where do you stand on him? Did he probably made your pool, being that anybody respectable is probably in your pool tonight?
He actually didn't.
Really?
He's one of the guys that had to be removed.
Okay. I was going to say, then shoot that shit down and tell me why.
I mean, it's just, for one, I don't believe he's as good as he's shown overall. Two, like, I don't really want to chase 30 plus DK points in 3 out of his last 5 starts.
Yeah, got it.
He doesn't seem like that kind of pitcher to me with a high whip.
You're a believer in the heater, not the sustainability.
An average performance, and I feel like he's just not getting to 30.
What about some of
those others? I heard everything I said. I don't know if I was cutting out or if you were.
You did a little to me, but I'm just going to power through just because I'm just going to assume it's me. So I mean, it's going to be a little tougher to do this.
My DK browser was taking forever to load, so it might have been me that actually cut out. But yeah, it's just Soriano falls into that group of 5 guys-ish that I just had to find a way to eliminate because I needed percentages somewhere because, like, I like to go overweight on everybody I do play. Mm-hmm. And I can't do that if I have 15 guys in my pool, really. So Soriano was taken out. Shota Imanaga was taken out. Mizorowski was taken out, even though I want to play Mizorowski against the Dodgers to be a little different. Who else? Nick Martinez was taken out. He's been throwing the ball well facing Miami. Those guys for sure taken out. And then, I mean, maybe it was just those four. Maybe Kershaw could have been in consideration, but I feel like Kershaw's only really in consideration on a smaller slate, just because I don't think he has the upside. So I've even debated removing Robbie Ray, and that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of being overweight on what you do play. And when you get, and that's where it becomes problematic on big slates like this, is because you've got so many options. You start having to make some tougher stands down at the bottom of your player pool into who do you leave in, how do you leave out, who do you leave in, et cetera, et cetera. Because like you said, the more people you put in, the lower a percentage you can have on just about any of them across the board. Therefore, it makes it hard to be, build something really generating leverage against. And really and truly, the same thing applies to stacking offenses. When you just got too many options, you just have to start making stands somewhere. And that's what these big slates force, which is kind of why I was wondering if you did any major adjusting between big and small slates, is why I asked you that earlier, because that's where my headspace was going. Who else do you like? I mean, you might as well just run down your pitcher pool really quickly for people, the 8 to 10, 11 dudes that you're using, just so if they're taking notes, they can just jot them down. And then maybe tell us who you're highest on, like the 2 or 3 that you're highest on.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 clear-cut for me right now, and it's Hunter Brown, Evalde, Sonny Gray, and Seth Lugo are the 4 top plays for me. Seth Lugo, matchup based, whatever, but he's been ridiculously strong for the last 4 or 5 starts.
Third highest
in a pitcher's
VK
park.
score.
Yeah, I mean, in a pitcher's park, like, it's just great. Sonny Gray, like I mentioned, that ballpark is great for him, or at least he's been able to pitch so well in that ballpark. And Washington's without Kyber Ruiz, who's been one of the guys that has hit him previously. Small piece, but it's still a big enough piece to have me push him into that top tier for me. Evalde, we talk about the Angels matchup all the time. I talked about it earlier. The DeGrom was 5 times the projected ownership of Evalde in the same matchup last night. And then Hunter Brown, like, best overall pitcher on this slate. Cleveland's been struggling enough. Hunter Brown at home has been absolutely ridiculous. So he's the clear guy at the top. He's just 11K. If the slate was 8 games and we had removed a couple of the 9 and 10K guys, Hunter Brown would probably be 50% owned on this slate. So
where would you put him on FanDuel? I mean, when the question got asked yesterday, where would you start on FanDuel? Is it Hunter Brown and then maybe some others to get different, or would you actually start with somebody else on FanDuel, being that he is a pretty clear-cut top option?
I mean, I'm probably going to try to start with Sonny Gray, Lugo, or Evalde for the savings on FanDuel and build out. And then if I can get up from one of those pitchers to Hunter Brown, then I would do it that way. Or compare it to a build starting with Brown and just see. Brown feels like the one that you want, but like I mentioned, Lugo's just in a great spot. And I think Sonny Gray probably outperforms some of his projections. And then for whatever reason, Evalde is just overlooked enough. But
Evalde's the
FanDuel, I guess it's probably Hunter Brown or Seth Lugo as my main guy if I had to choose.
Evalde's the cheapest of the 4 on FanDuel.
He is
by about $100, $200, but still, it's 1,000 to 1,200 or more under Hunter Brown. So I don't know. I always wanted to ask that question just in case we can kind of head everybody off at the pass in the comment section. Let's see what people are saying here right now, because it looks like most of my stuff is populated. Grayson Kale, new to the Army, so welcome, buddy. How do I set up the DS and use the cheat sheets and basically to start playing and run? Let's deal with that. Let's take a little bit of time and show him how to do that. you want me to kick onto the cheat sheets today? And did you do
Yeah,
yours?
I did the sheet, the DK sheet.
Let me do those and then kind of scroll through them for Grayson. And we don't do this too often, but when we get new people, I want to get you guys off to the right start because it's super, super, super critical. I'm a big believer in delivering and value and all that kind of stuff, and we pay enough for the DFS information out here in the world. So probably a really good idea. On the cheat sheets, let me see if I can share this tab, blow it up a little bit for you, Grayson. Like I said, welcome in. Hopefully you used one of those coupon codes and got in here. You're looking at the Dinger of the Day page. This is where our staff run contests, and they kind of pick who their favorite home run call is on the day. And this is the numbers through the year. So you can kind of see who's maybe hot, who's not, and who's maybe pulled into other sports like Mutton Madness are doing our props and stuff now. So they probably are not keeping up on this. But you've got your main guys, your Razzles and your Tattoos and, Scott and Darth and all those guys that are in there. But really what we're looking for down here in this bottom tab, you can use this core plays, which again is going to be site-based, FanDuel to DraftKings, and it's going to be basically the group of players that people might be starting with, which coaches might be starting with certain players, and then kind of building out from there. Sometimes it's a stack, sometimes it's people on different teams. It's just generally people that are in a good spot. And you're going to find that every coach is different. We get this question all the time. What do I do if this guy says this and this guy says this and this guy says that? Well, I look for overlap when it's me. I treat the coaches like a Venn diagram, and I start looking for all of the overlap. And if they're all on, a certain player, then I'm going to consider that guy a really, really good consensus pick. And he might be somebody that I would definitely use as my core. And then the others, at the fringe players, I might lean on who I'm interacting with the most in our Discord rooms, who I'm building some rapport with, who I'm building, a little bit more trust in than somebody else. And I might kind of just go with that particular guy's core plays over the others. But that's how I typically would use a sheet like that. But then you've got your main slate and your late slate type stuff when we offer those. But DraftKings, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, Grayson, tell me if you're playing FanDuel or DraftKings, because I'm going to assume DraftKings, that's where most people play. We'll talk some FanDuel stuff, of course, especially when people ask. So if you guys are playing FanDuel, even anybody else out in the comments, you got to ask and get us off the DraftKings stuff. Otherwise, we're just going to be very front loaded on DraftKings coverage. But you see up here in the coach corner, underneath, right above position and player, I'm circling it with my cursor. You can see that Razzle did these sheets today. Razzle, what red means a guy got scratched. What's yellow mean?
Yellow is weather-related issues.
Weather issue. And if he's not in the lineup, he's red. And if he's blue, he's a core play. So you'll see Razzle's core plays copied into this, but they'll be highlighted in blue. You want to walk him through the sheet? I'll just scroll it for him. I mean, how would you use it in a nutshell?
Really the way that I view my sheet is the guys in the position department, like, I guess, bypassing pitching, go to the position players. Those are the guys that I'm prioritizing everywhere. Like, so those are the names that I'm making sure in my runs that I'm getting, say 5-6% or more, just because like outfield's such a wide pool.
Good no,
so
20 plus.
I basically want to make sure, because of the amount of lineups that I do, in general is between 300 and 600. If I'm doing 5% on a guy, like that's getting me 15 to 30 lineups, which is good, So I don't put a suggested percentage on that because it's really tough to tell you where I'm going to end up. And I never want to be told like I'm deceiving people. Like when I'm doing that many lineups, it's really tough to give a range on hitters of where I'm going to end up because I run it so many times. The pitchers, I give you a range, and 99.9% of the time fall within that range. And if I'm outside of it, it's because I missed by a couple percentage points. And that's where I really pay attention to what I'm doing, because I can take our projected ownership, add that up, and then try to leave myself enough room so I can go overweight on every pitcher that I list. That's my personal play style. Like, I like to be overweight on pitching. If I'm going to go underweight, it's rare, but there are times, and I do point it out. But if I'm willing to be underweight on guys, I should just remove them from my pool because I might as well just not play them if I'm intentionally going underweight. But yeah, like just the pool is the guys I'm prioritizing. So I'm basically boosting the projections on every hitter that I have on my sheet because I want them to stand out a little bit more.
And that's using the smiley faces, right? That love, like, and adore.
Yeah.
Or do you
Sometimes
do it manually?
sometimes it's just a like. Sometimes I don't. It's tough because cheap guys like your adore won't jump them enough. Like if they just have a bad projection, so you have to manually change it. Expensive guys, you don't really have to do much more than just the like or dislike because their projection's so high that 10% drops them enough or moves them up enough. If you start putting an adore on a guy that's projected at 12, now you're jumping him up to almost 15.
Let me show Grayson what we're talking about here really quick. I'm going to kick over to the optimizer here really fast. And again, I know you said FanDuel, but these are really the techniques between these are going to be the same. And I'm going to probably keep Razzle on DraftKings because he did that cheat sheet and a different coach did FanDuel. And Razzle's better at answering from his own mind. And this is going to sound overwhelming. You're going to get caught up. Trust me, the learning curve is maybe not as tough as it's going to sound. And no, we don't expect you to be building 300 to 600 lineups a day if you don't want to. We have plenty of people that build 1 to 3. We have others that build 50. We have others that build 300. It's really all personal preference and how experienced you might be with DFS as a whole. But that's what the Discord's for, is that's going to get you the interaction with those coaches. It's going to get you figuring out where you might fit in the fastest. That's really where the value in being a member at DFS Army is going to be. So to be quite honest with you, really, really use that Discord. And if you're on a light membership and you don't have access to it, hit that coupon code down there, that MLB Live or July 4, and make sure that you contact support and you upgrade to get access to Discord because that's what's really going to make the difference in your game. When he's talking about adjusting these projections, you've got this fantasy point box over here that you can really kind of manipulate. But over here on the side, and I'm just using pictures right now, Hunter Brown, it's going to be the same thing. But Hunter Brown, this little gray smiley face here, when I click on this in a second, it's going to open up a window of boosting these projections by 5, 10, or 15%. And it's going to take this projection of 24.84, which stays the same, and it's going to boost it here in this box by 5%, 10%, or decrease it, whatever we do. So when I click on it and it opens up these guys right here, this is what he's talking about when he says boosting sometimes. So let's say he takes 10%. You're going to see that 24.8 get jumped by about 3 points, almost probably up close to 27 points when I click it. See, I got the 27 points. Now that changes the way the optimizer looks at Hunter Brown. It gives him a little bit more favorability in your lineup. So it's going to bring him in a little bit more often than it was otherwise. Okay. And there's a common misconception. When we're up here using randomization and stuff, that's different. Randomization is going to vary every single lineup. Bang, 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 bang. It's going to vary by whatever percentage you put in this box. So whatever percentage you put in this box, honestly, is going to counteract that boost right there. So it may be running you 10% less, and it may negate the whole darn thing. So I'd be really careful about using those two at the same time because they kind of fight against each other. But here's what you're looking at. Is this 27 points now? And if this brings him in more of your lineups, then you might be happy with that. And what Razzle was saying was the cheaper guys, he needs to boost even more to get them up into his runs to where they overtake other players that the optimizer might be kind of leaning on or kind of favoring. And he may want this other guy who's cheap. So he may not even be able to get him in the lineups that he wants. If he hits that 15% adore button right there that I'm covering up with the little finger and the cursor, that is going to boost it even more, 28, 29 points. And if that's not enough to continue pulling him into your lineups, now you've got to go in here and you've got to change it to say 30, and then change it again. And if it's still not working, maybe go 31 or whatever the hell number starts getting him into the percent. Now that's an advanced move. Don't get me wrong. If you're brand new to DFS, I wouldn't worry about that stuff yet. I'd start building to it. But if you're ready for it because you've been playing for a while and you understand exactly what I'm saying, and I'm sounding like I'm just talking to a third grader right now, and I apologize if I am, but if you understand it like that, then you already kind of have an idea of how to manipulate the tool. So sorry for that sidebar. and whatnot. I want to let Razzle get back to finishing off what he's talking about with the sheets but I wanted to at least make sure that we kind of were on the same page there. Sorry, Razzle.
No, you're right. I mean, at the bottom in stacking, my sheet used to just be me listing the 7 guys from each lineup that I would play. I've changed it now to just showing the names that I'm prioritizing, making sure I get into my stacks. Some teams like Toronto tonight, you have 6 players there. DK is a 5-man stack, FanDuel 4-man. So you have to make some decisions, but it's kind of in that order. Other teams, Houston, I'm prioritizing getting 3 names in for sure. And then I'll, let the DS do a little bit more of the breakdown there, or when I'm hand building, I'll make sure I'm putting those 3 guys in, and then playing around with different combinations. It's the puzzle piece. So things are just always moving around. When I hand build, I don't just come up with the very first hand build I do and that's it. I look at it and then decide if that's the 5-man stack I want. If it's not, then I, remove one and try to change around and see if I get comfortable with what I'm doing. So I like the idea of going with just the names I prioritize down there, because otherwise I'm just listing a bunch of names, and I may as well just put an order to every single lineup out there, and that just takes too long too. Because my sheet's always going to have a top 12, as long as there's 12 plus teams playing on a slate, I'm always going to have 12 teams tiers wise. So now that you're showing the sheet, we can't really do a tiers game.
But we still can, because until you said that, not many of us were probably taking notes, getting ready to guess. That's funny. I know I wasn't thinking about it. Oh, that's funny. Right. We might do it again anyway, but this takes up the time that we would be using on that. So as he's pointed out, you can see where his priorities are in terms of the stacking, up and down, and where the weather delays might be. And you can see who his favorite players in there are with the confidence rating. So that really does help. Grayson, give me a shout out in the comments if that helped you. And if you have other questions, follow-up questions, let me know, because this is exactly what I would do. And I would read those player notes out to the right-hand margin of those cheat sheets, and that would help me start to make a determination as to maybe why I like a guy if I'm doing some of my own research and comparing to Razzle and whatever else, which I like to, when I was beginning more, and I've said this 1,000 times, but when I was a newer player, I like to play guess the coach. I like to do my own research ahead of time, and then I would like to figure out kind of who my teams were, who my favorite plays were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'd wait for that cheat sheet to populate throughout the day, and I'd go in and I'd go, ooh, okay, we're on the right track here. We're on the right track. That helped me gain confidence as a player in terms of, oh, we think alike. This guy's a good player. I'd like to think that I'm getting to be a better player, et cetera, et cetera. And, ooh, he's different there, though. Why? And then I would dig in, or I would ask the coach in Discord, hey, why you like this guy? I didn't see it. And sometimes they can explain it to you, and that helps you grow as a player too. So hopefully all that helps. Edward, you're welcome for the refresher. DePrince, we were starting on FanDuel. We were probably starting with pitching again, and instead of Hunter Brown, we were talking about Lugo or maybe Eovaldi or Sonny Gray or something like that, then maybe trying to get back up to Hunter Brown if you could, but if not, no harm, no foul. So that was what Razzle was talking about in terms of that. Chuck says, what shortstop has the best chance at a homer? Bichette, Story, or Justin Wilson? And yes, there was a ton of love for Seth Lugo today.
I mean, Justin Wilson is a relief pitcher, but probably means Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson's not really a power guy. I think it's probably Bichette, even though I'm almost positive Story's going to homer tonight, since he didn't last night, and he was super popular as a home run call yesterday. So I feel like it's just going to happen that Story's going to homer. But I think of those three, like Bichette, the wind is blowing into that corner in Chicago. And we saw the wind blowing to the opposite corner last night in Chicago, and we saw a bunch of the lefties from Toronto hit home runs. So might be the righty's turn tonight.
Okay. Well, I would have picked Bichette myself, just because. I mean, Trevor Story is fine, and he'll probably hit one out. Somebody's gonna hit that ladder again. Did you see that shit last night?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was insane. I swear to God, that felt like I said place in second in the millie, but it feels worse than that because at least in the millie you get 100K for your efforts. I mean, this was like, good Lord. I mean, well, I guess he got a double instead of a home run, but man, if that kept me from cashing or kept me from winning a GPP, that would have been a big kick in the balls.
Yeah, I mean, it's in reality though, the ball didn't actually clear.
No, of course not. It wasn't a home run.
So
it wasn't like he was ripped off.
Right. So it ended up being the correct call, but still, yeah,
it's just that
it's rough.
When 6 inches costs you potentially tens of thousands of dollars, that's the thing. I mean, which, speaking of which, I didn't show this yet. Since we've got 95 people or 100 people in here, y'all got to see this. Did you see where are we? Come on. It's going to take a minute to load, of course. That's why that always said, there we go. There we go. I think it was that Beavis?
That was Beavis.
Hit that 50K last night?
Yep.
Man, that's the good stuff right there. $50,000 lineup. He said he built a funky lineup. I don't know that we need to review it or anything, but guys, people in the Army win. Again, that's why you got to be in here like Grayson and get yourself set up. Where else do we want to go? What else do we want to talk about? Because, I mean, we're a little out of order today compared to what we usually do.
Right. If you're playing the early slate, the Mets Orioles game is delayed, but only for 15 minutes. Nope, 25 minutes. They have a start time at 7 Eastern, so probably nothing to worry about there for that early 2-gamer.
That was the other major weather concern, though, in terms of the slate. It was Baltimore and New York.
Yeah.
Or was it New York? I'm getting my weather all mixed up.
I mean, yeah, Baltimore, New York.
Yeah, it's the Yankees.
Yeah. Chicago and I guess Boston technically, but there is a chance for a delay in Boston from some of the reports I'm seeing now. That's changed a little bit as the day's gone on, but I'm not overly afraid of it. I may drop my Brian Bayo exposure just slightly. Not that I was going to go super heavy on him anyways, just because I think he's ceiling-wise he's somewhat capped. But we saw it last night in our discussion. Noah Cameron ended up being the nut pitcher on the slate.
I think it was so funny how you said we kind of spoke it into existence. I mean, what kind of didn't we say we would have put a percentage of that happening at well under 10% last night?
Yeah, of all the main pitchers busting. I mean, Christopher
Sanchez everything had to
bust. Sanchez didn't bust. It's just Cameron outscored him by 2 or something. But DeGrom busted. Yamamoto busted. Who else am I?
Well, there's like 3 or 4. There's like 3 or 4, and it was just like the odds of these guys all busting in the same slate to make room for somebody like Noah Cameron are just like not really all that common.
Oh yeah, it was Kikuchi. Kikuchi was the other one, and Kikuchi struggled.
And when you hear stuff like that, I swear that's why I deleted it, but I put in Discord earlier today. I was like, when you hear stuff like that, when you hear us speaking of any kind of confidence, and that wasn't confidence, we were very much honest with this is a low probability call, and you and I wouldn't have put $1 on it, but I guess technically you did if you were asking your lineups. But I mean, I was just like, man, it just figures. At that time, we actually did speak something into existence that felt right, because usually I speak the jinx. When I say something I'm confident in, usually the opposite happens.
I obviously put some money behind it because I was kind of double the field on Noah Cameron as it was, but still.
That's good.
I mean, I was definitely higher on Sanchez than the field, just because it looked like he was going overlooked. But I still obviously was heavy in DeGrom, Kikuchi. I
So
ended
let me
up
ask you this.
being underweight on Yamamoto, and that wasn't
How,
by plan either.
how many lineups did you build last night?
275, I think, roughly, give or take.
Did you eke out some profit?
I didn't.
Oh,
Uh,
even with the Cameron. So Cameron was more of a make tonight better instead of worse night.
yeah, pretty much, because Zach Tears didn't do well yesterday. Milwaukee didn't make it into my top 12. They were basically 13th. They were 12th initially, and then I realized I forgot a team that I was more interested in, and I removed Milwaukee. And
Yeah, of course they did their thing.
Yeah, so stacked tiers just were not good. So Sanchez Cameron combination saved my night more than anything.
That actually is a good opportunity to bring up Chris's question. Said, if you have time, could you do a quick leverage tool tutorial? Because he's noticed some of the slates, the highest owned team sometimes is also a top leverage play according to tool. And the quick answer to that for Chris, I'll let Razzle dive into the deeper leverage type stuff. But the quick answer to why sometimes like New York or LA or something like that is the highest leverage team too, is because they're so damned expensive. This is the only thing I can come up with, is that they're so damned expensive. Even though they're highly owned, they're not going to be a full 4 stack on FanDuel or a full 5 stack on, because it just cost prohibitive. And so few people are going to be able to do that's why they still generate a ton of leverage. Because if you do have all 5 and all 5 do okay, they're just not going to have a lot of competition for the lineups that are similar, because everybody else is going to be half of what you did. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it than that, I assume, in terms of calculations. But I've noticed that with the Dodgers especially, that when they get a little bit chalky, that all of a sudden they are still the number one leverage team. And that had me asking that same question as you were asking a month or two ago. And by watching it, that's really about all I can determine, unless, Razzle, if you know something different. I just think it's usually just a cost thing.
I mean, I think it's just simply that based on all the information we have, projections, the grades, point per dollar, everything across the board, it just means that they're not high owned enough based on all those numbers. You could put it whether, like maybe it's in comparison to, the other teams that are high owned around them, but I don't think that's the case, because I'm looking at tonight as an example in an ownership percentage, and Boston, Toronto, Chicago are 2, 3, and 4 in ownership, and they're 3, 4, and 2 in leverage. So I just think it's the spot itself where projection wise, based on the numbers, they should be even higher owned. So there's leverage to being able to go overweight on them. And then, like, I break this down because Atlanta's at 68% at the top, which seems ridiculous because Atlanta's offense has struggled so much. But that's 68% amongst 9 batters. That's less than 8% per guy on average. Obviously, in Acuna and Olsen are going to be higher owned than that average. But on a night like tonight, when you see the highest owned team at just 68%, that tells me that, like, you don't even have to be extreme to get leverage on the field.
What do you think of Michael Harris would be, or somebody towards the bottom of an Atlanta lineup? 2, 3, 4%.
Like Nick Allen's probably 1.5% or something, right, because he's worthless. Acuna's been struggling enough to where I don't think he could be much more than 15%. I guess I didn't even look.
He probably will be, though.
12.98% projected on DK right now. So Ozuna, 10.39. So they're second and third in terms of outfield ownership percentage. Jerickson Profar, 7.4%, which is below the average on that 68%, right? If I'm doing math correctly, yeah.
So how would you use that? Because I mean, tonight is a huge slate, and we always talk about ownership's not really that important tonight. Um, but I think that the best way to think of leverage anyway is you just don't want to be necessarily at the field number. You want to be above it or below it, because what you're basically saying in taking leverage is the field. This team is too highly owned. Like if you believe Atlanta is really struggling and whatnot, and you want to get off of some of those players, or most importantly off the stack as a whole, then you would say, okay, 68% or whatever they are is too high. So I'm going to be under that. I'm only going to be on 30% or 10% or whatever. And that's how I'm going to take my leverage, is I feel that the field is playing too much of them. And vice versa is true too. You may really like somebody else at 15% and say, oh, I'm going to be overweight. That's what that tool is helping you decide. The leverage rank over on the right side, how much do you lean on it? I mean, I lean on it a little bit, but not much.
I guess I probably lean on that more than the total ownership number. Just because for hitters, I don't necessarily care all that much about ownership. So like people freak out about these numbers and ownership numbers, but I think they overdo it. So I don't mind the leverage rank, but I look more at the average projected points for a player. Not really the point per dollar, because I hate point per dollar talk in MLB. But yeah, the average projected points, the pitcher WOBA rank over on the right. If you notice, there's a lot of correlation between green in those two columns and leverage rank columns. So that might be a bigger piece of the equation when it comes to leverage rank than ownership percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess in doing this for so long, like it's tougher to break it down, because I kind of look across the board. I do look at the average salary, because that helps. Like the Cubs are so expensive.
So I was just
that's why their leverage is probably pretty strong, is because the average person is going to try to build that and then realize, oh, I can't put in two big name pitchers, or I can't then also add in Judge or Ohtani or whatever. So they're going to come off of the Cub stack, or they're going to go with the cheap version of the Cub stack and leave out the better bats.
And to be fair, the DS will do that to you too. If you just blindly roster Cubs, it's going to go right to the bottom of that order, because it's going to try and put in some of those better pitchers. So you're going to have to probably get to a point where you experience-wise can feel that out and go, I mean, if you want a low-end, Cubs, you think they're going to score 10 runs, you think the bottom of the order is going to get a lot of correlated damage done, sure, go for it. But if you feel like, I need some Suzuki, I need some Tucker, I need some whatever else, you ain't going to get them in the DS at this price when you're putting in some pitching. You're going to have to probably finagle it around a little bit. And that, what I'm hearing you say, Razzle, is that factor of price, even though they're a good average projected points type, play, that price is going to be cost prohibitive to people. So therefore it's going to suppress that ownership lower than it should be. Therefore they'll generate leverage if you go overweight on them.
Yeah. I mean, like just in general, like the average DFS player isn't using optimizers yet. Like I know there's a ton of sites out there and there are optimizers to use, but the average player still isn't utilizing optimizers. So they are hand building. Right. So, hand building, like people either go superstars and scrubs in other sports, or they go balanced in baseball, because they don't want to use names that they don't know much about. And I will tell you that most baseball slates are won because of a name that people don't know much about.
That goes off and hits two bombs or something like that because he's in a great matchup.
Or it's a second-year starting pitcher that the average field hadn't heard anything about, and
just say worth 10Ks.
He goes 7 innings, strikes out 8 or 9, and people who belong to sites like the FS Army might know more about that pitcher because they have somebody on staff or within the community who's very familiar with that pitcher's makeup and the expectations and all that. So the average player just doesn't know about every name in baseball.
I'm laughing because now's the time for you to tell people to use MLB Live as a code.
Well, I mean, you can
beautiful.
definitely use that.
Or hell, use code RAZ, RAZZ, for 10% off also.
Like just one Z in that. But yeah, like,
okay.
I mean, yes, for me, I can't speak for other sites. Like, I guess I can speak for a couple other sites because I know some of the individuals. But there are guys that have been doing deep dive into baseball for many years. Myself included, in some pretty high dollar dynasty leagues, etc. Like, so I'm pretty versed in the prospect world, and understanding where guys are coming from. So like, it's going to be super rare for somebody like me who sees a player that I've never heard of. There have been random guys, but those guys usually end up being spot starters who've been in the minors for 12 years and they're 30 to 32 years old and just making their major league debut because the team needs somebody to throw 4 or 5 innings. And that's usually a guy we're not playing anyways.
Not yet. Let me do this because we're running up on an hour. Probably ought to let people get off and get to their building their lineups and such. But we did so much teaching today that I hope that people appreciate the change of pace, because I think for me, if I was a prospective member or somebody who is newer or whatever, this would have been a gold mine today in terms of helping me out. So I appreciate the insight. What is one prospect that you're keeping your eyes out for the second half of the season, getting up on the All-Star break? Who's somebody that you think might get called up and might actually make some noise in the second half? I don't have anybody because I don't follow baseball as closely as you do, but I figure you might have a name, and we might be able to look back at this and say that aged really, really well.
I mean, there's a couple. Like, I just don't know that Baltimore's going to do it, but Samuel Basallo, an offense-first catcher, but since they've been dealing with so many injuries at the catcher position, I could see him getting a shot to get his feet wet. Super young, talented. He's already in AAA. Another one, your Cardinals have J.J. Weatherholt, who up to AAA was top 7 pick last year. I don't remember where the Cardinals picked, but out of college.
Cardinal Twitter's already buzzing about him.
So he's at AAA. A lot of bats in the first round last year. College bats first round last year are accelerated quite a bit. We've seen a couple in the majors already this season. And I think Weatherholt's got a chance to be in the second half.
Cool.
Especially if the Cardinals keep sticking around enough, because they do need some offense. And I still think that they might trade Arenado, but he's still not he's not healthy either.
Not right now.
I mean, there's that. I'm sure there's a couple other that I'm forgetting.
I'm sure that's why they were, not to make this a St. Louis centric comment, but I'm sure that's why they were putting Sajasi and Nolan Gorman and whatever over at third base while Nolan's been out, is just because they're probably trying to, what do we have over here and can we shop him?
Yeah, I mean, like, Nolan Gorman came up as a third baseman, so but his defense was always questionable. Sagasi is somebody I like. Kind of came up out of nowhere within the Texas organization, but they don't really have anywhere to play him either. Donovan at second base.
Right.
Donovan could play outfield, but they played Scott and Newt Barr, and then whenever Jordan Walker comes back.
Right.
I mean, there are hitters all over the place that are there. Twins have one in Emmanuel Rodriguez that I'm looking forward to. And Edward said Andrew Vaughn tonight at first. Like, people should know Andrew Vaughn. Like, he's played.
Yeah.
He was a first-round pick in 2019 and has played for the White Sox since 2020. I think he came up pretty quickly too.
He's somebody when
fell off.
Well, when he pops into my lineups, oftentimes I look and go, "Ooh, White Sox logo. Who? Vaughn. I'll allow it."
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like nobody probably knew that he had been traded to the Brewers. Like it was under the radar.
Right.
It was the Aaron Savali thing when Savali wanted out of Milwaukee. And Dixon's question, the answer is me. That's the only answer.
Oh. That's cold.
But I mean, I can give you some names. Mackenzie Gore. I'm just looking at random teams as I scroll on the DS. But
it's got to be somebody with a porn star mustache. Apparently, she's into that.
He might be. I mean, Robbie Ray likes to wear his pants super, super tight, so maybe that excites her since she's a gymnast. I don't know.
Right. There's all sorts of ways we could take this, but I think we've officially jumped the shark. We should probably let everybody build their lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think there's a lot of MLB pitchers that actually wouldn't take Livy Dunn.
I agree.
Some guys don't like that body type.
I would agree. Others
missing certain features of her body because of she's athletic. Yes,
that's where I'd be. That's where
there are some that just
that's where I'd be.
Turn it down because they have options. Like I couldn't turn it down because I don't have those kind of options. So
that's where I was going with that too. Is I would have to sacrifice some features for the fact that what else am I going to get somewhere else? Because I don't exactly have them knocking on my door.
Right.
Oh boy. Well, let's throw this one out into the sunset and call it a day. Seriously, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of the more deeper diving, educational, tactical, strategic approach to DFS today. But MLB Live Lock Show, DFSArmy.com, me and Razzle. I've picked your brain enough. I don't think you probably got anything deep left in there to share, but if you do, it'll be in the Discord, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think I have much left. If something pops up, I'll share it in the Discord. Probably the only thing left for me to do is decide on pitching in New York as far as percentages.
Right, who you're going to keep. Cool. Well, all right. Well, let's talk again tomorrow. Well, we'll talk with you again next week, but we'll talk with Tattoo tomorrow, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm going to hit the end stream button, and we're going to get on out of here and start building those lineups. Razzle, thanks again. I'll see you on the other side, buddy.
Sounds good.
Thanks, dude.